Abiyah, Toda Rabbah, for another day in you, Father. And I pray that we are all able to slow down in this moment, Father. Take whatever distractions, whatever was put before us before we got on this Zoom call, and be able to lay it at your feet, Father, so that we can give you 100% of us, Father, as we study your word. Father, be with each and every Ruach that is amongst us, Father, that we all be a cod in you, Father, as we seek to just learn more about your wisdom on having teachable Ruachs, Father. For the Ruach HaKodesh is to teach us all things, and therefore you also allow us to do that for one another. So, Father, we just ask that this time be a blessing unto you. We thank you for the diligence that Achoti Nia has put forth in studying and preparing for this word for her sisters. And we just pray that this time be a blessed time in you. In the precious name of Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray. Hallelujah, and so be it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Okay, let me share my screen. I won't be able to... Oh, okay, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so today we'll be talking about the Teachable Ruach. Okay, so like we do, there's an icebreaker. So I hope that you guys diligently took your time as well to study so that we can talk about it. Does anybody want to give their definition of the Teachable Ruach? Anybody? Yes, Sister Via, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I have as a different definition, a teachable Ruach is willingness to learn, listen, and receive instruction, correction, or guidance from others. And I also have characteristics. I'm not sure if you wanted to go that far or wait on that.
Wait on that because there is a slide for that, kind of.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good definition, sis.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Sade. All right, shalom. So in terms of teachable Ruach, I had like a little slogan, correction to perfection. Was one thing I think about when having a teachable Ruach is understanding that, there's correction to perfection when we're getting taught by Yah or even being taught by one another. Is a teachable Ruach. Any other sister before I move on?
I have, I just wanted to say in order to teach, you have to learn. So, there was this little saying that, my children learned when they went to Camp Arambe, and it's learn that you may teach and teach that you may learn. So.
Sister Azania, do you have anything? Have a definition of teachable Ruach?
I didn't actually know that we were supposed to study it or something prior to coming here, so I don't have anything, but I know that I've always, and I agree with really it's what everybody else has stated, I think, but I've always told my children that in order to be a teacher, you first have to be taught, and in order to be a leader, you first have to be willing to be led. And so, yeah, that really just goes into what Auntie C actually had stated. But that's what I've been saying as well. So I disagree with everybody else. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. What is a teachable Ruach? What does it look like? I'm going to give you an example. Well, let me go through the definitions first. Okay, so the Google answer would be able to be taught. Webster 828, the Bible version, is one that may be taught or apt to learn, also readily receiving instruction. In the Bible, if you go to Proverbs 4:20 through 22, it says, "My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings, and let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh." So, all your definitions are correct in that factor. Let's see. So here's the example. When I asked, what does a teachable Ruach look like? That I think of sometimes a eraser, and I will explain that in a second. So does anybody have a visual? Because I'm a visual person. So does anybody have a visual of what that looks like to them? Yes, ma'am.
Not sure if this is the, what you're looking for, but I look at my dogs, when it comes to their obedience, their submissiveness. Of course, they don't talk, but when trained well, they really do obey, and they're willing to learn. They're excited to learn. They come up to you wanting instructions and wanting to, what to do next. So that's what I think of as far as a visual. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that's what came to my mind.
Sister Azania, did you have something? I seen your hand raised, but I didn't know if it was...
Yes, what I thought about, and I'm waiting on my girls to hand me my cord because I know the internet, the service is not great back here. But anyway, I was thinking about clay, in which it is that is used to make the pot. And then I'm thinking of it going through the fire and then being broken in order to be turned into something else, like the process in which, clay is like molded and then refined, but then burned, and then it comes out a certain type of way, but then broken into all these different pieces and then put back together, because I remember there was some type of art in which it is that, I think that in Japan or something like that, they take like pottery and they break that thing on purpose and then they put it back together. But then the glue in which it is that they use is gold. And so you have the gold, lining that actually ends up being, used whenever it's actually glued back together. But then it ends up looking more beautiful than what it was before it was broken. But that was the thought that I had.
So I have a couple examples. One being the eraser. A lot of times we are taught that, sorry, y'all, we have the chicken out. 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
When I would do my cleaning, when I had my cleaning business and I would teach people how to clean, teach them how I expect it to be done, but then somebody else can come with a different technique, but the same result. So it was like I taught them my way to do it, but they did it a different way, but it still had the same result, if that makes sense.
I want you to keep that in mind for later as well. I was going through this study with a sister in Texas because she's like really good in the word and she's my age. And she was explaining, she was asking, hey, is this lesson on the women teaching or is this lesson on being teachable as like in the student perspective? And I was telling her like it's the lesson on like us being in the student perspective, not necessarily us teaching, because we know what the word says about, you know, women teaching and things like that. But also there are going to be predicaments where as a daughter or as a friend or as a sister, like you just have to teach in the fact of, oh, this is how you cut something, or this is how we do this in our house, you know, things like that. So this helps as well. But back to that example with the eraser, many people are taught that you learn from your mistakes, right? And so with your mistakes, you're either teachable or you're not. So that's the visual I got from that. Another visual is iron sharpening iron. This is another way I see the teachable spirit being that, hey, you know, this is coming off, oh, just like Auntie Kasaya said, oh, she came in with this thought process of how she cleans, but it's not always bad. Hey, here's a sharpener. This is how I do it. But it ends up in the same result, which our plumb line is Torah here. And then lastly, I had a sponge. Anybody know why I put the sponge as our last visual? Any guesses? Yes. Anybody who's raising their hand can go ahead. Because I can't really see because I'm presenting. So, like, if you just come off mute, it would be great. Sorry. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me because my internet's spotty. We're traveling, but I thought about sponge because it soaks up things. So having a teachable ruach, you can soak up that knowledge and that wisdom that is put before you, whether it's the word of Yah or learning from another woman or learning from your Adon. So that's my thought process with that. Does anybody want to add to that or touch and agree? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking the same, but I did want to elaborate when the water is soaked up in the sponge. You can either release the water or have the water stay in. So depending on where your brain is at with the knowledge, you're either soaking it in or you can release it. And when you're soaking it in, you're retaining that knowledge. But if you're releasing it, it also depends on how the sponge is being used. Are you using the water to clean? Because now the cleaning is the application process of the sponge. Just wanted to elaborate on that.
I got my iPad here. Auntie Kasaya, do you have something?
I was just going to say, a sponge is just to absorb the knowledge, absorb some things, and add on to what you already know. Just a collection of things, I guess. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm driving. The traffic is crazy.
You're okay. So Ema was right in her definition, and then you guys came alongside her. So wow, y'all. That's exactly why I put. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about, because we are a family that focuses on spirits and deliverance. I wanted to focus on the spirits that are associated with the Teachable Ruach, and there are some that I most likely did leave out, so I would definitely ask that you keep in mind as we're going through these. Hey, you left out this, or this could be added. So a positive spirit that comes out of Teachable Spirit is humility. The opposite of that would be pride, right? So if you go to Proverbs 26:12. Alright, Proverbs 26:12 reads, "Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope of the fool than of him." And I believe this fits very well in the fact of some versions say, "See that he is not teachable."
And in this one, it says, see thou a man wise in his own conceit. So one that deems himself wise, right? One that already has decided, wisdom is mine. I don't need anything else. I don't need to be taught. I'm old enough. I'm fast enough. I'm moved enough. I'm educated enough. Or I'm in the word enough. That's their decision and their mindset, but not necessarily what Yah says about them. To the point, it says, there is more hope than a fool than of him. And we know how the Most High thinks about fools. So if there's more hope for a fool than you who thinks yourself wise, that's a problem. There's another verse that says, a man who thinks of himself highly is really nothing at all. And I'll bring that out. Anybody have anything to say towards these ruachs here, humility and pride, or have anything? Yes, ma'am. Sister Avia.
I also had humility, and I had Proverbs as well, chapter 22, verses 4.
Yes, ma'am. You said Proverbs 22:4?
Yes, ma'am.
When you're there, you can read it.
Yes, ma'am. The reward of humility is the fear of Yahuwah.
So, if you just look at those two verses and within itself, that by humility and the fear of Yahuwah are riches and honor in life. And the other verse I brought up just now, it talks about a fool let me go back. There's more hope for a fool than him. So, the opposites, one can possibly lead to death and one can possibly lead to life. And as we remember that this whole book in itself is a commandment. So where they break the commandment is making their self an idol. If you are deeming yourself wiser, you're making yourself an idol. So that makes sense that death is the root of this spirit of not being teachable. Okay. The next one I had was a positive spirit, being submissiveness, right? This really does test your submissiveness and the fact of being teachable. But the negative spirit could be fear. A lot of times it may be, we'll get to that example, actually. Just remember fear and the fact of it may make one not be teachable. A lot of times you see this in the fact of older generation or the younger generation. They have fear of change, fear of being wrong, or the fear of being proved wrong. And in that aspect, it could be a negative because you have no room or no desire to learn in that aspect. Anybody have anything or touch and agree with those two spirits there? Yes, ma'am. I think Ima and then Sister Avia. I don't know if Auntie Kasai still has her hand up from last time. I'm not sure. Because you have had your hand up for a while. Okay.
So I think it's very powerful how you are taking the kind of about teachable ruach and looking at the positive ruach, the negative ruach, the opposite of that, so we can also kind of use that as a check mark when we're, in a moment of being taught or having a moment where we can soak in wisdom, checking ourselves to see how we're operating when something's being said, like you talked about earlier with the pride. But the submissive and fear, I actually have a verse for that. So when I saw those two together, I was like, wow, look at the Ruach HaKodesh. Ephesians 5:21. Ephesians 5:21. And it exactly correlates with what you're talking about with the submissiveness. and fear. And again, with having a teachable ruach, there's a point of you're submitting yourself to someone else, or, to learn or to garner wisdom, or you're submitting yourself and heeding to Yah's word. And so in Ephesians 5:21, it says, submitting yourself submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. So, understand the distinction of the fear even in that when we're submitting to one another in the fear of Elohim, we're reverence the Father and what He's allowed to take place, or the person that He's put before us to garner that wisdom. But to your point, then there's that earthly or that fleshly fear where we do not want to subject ourselves for fear of, like you said, looking bad or being wrong or not wanting to change. So, hallelujah, for that clarity to the verse.
Sister Avia, yes, Lord.
Yes, ma'am. I had pride down as well, and I have a verse for that. And for fear, I listed fear of change, and I have a verse for that as well. But for pride, I have Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. And it reads, before destruction comes pride, and before a fall, a haughty spirit. And I had that because our pride can get in the way before we can see any of these things take place. And we're so hasty to do, feel, or say something before thinking about the outcome, before thinking about the destruction. And of course, the haughty spirit, because that can come about, along with your pride. So that's why I put that verse for pride. And for the fear of change, I have Revelation chapter 3, verses 17 through 18. And it says, because you say, rich I am, and I am made rich, and need none at all, and do not know that you are wretched, and pitiable, and poor, and blind, and naked. I advise you to buy from me gold, refined in the fire, so that you become rich in white garments, so that you become dressed, so that the shame of your nakedness might not be shown, and anoint your eyes with the ointment so that you see. Allow Yah.
I want to go back real quick, because I said I'll give you that verse. It's Galatians 6:3. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. So I just wanted to go back on that.
I had a verse. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I was asking. I was like, is her hand up from last time or this time? So, sorry.
I have so much here. I really did my homework. I'm just driving. I had Proverbs 12:1. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. And then I had Proverbs 13:18. Whoever disregards discipline comes to poverty and shame, but whoever heeds correction is honored. And it's this saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Oh, yeah.
Allow Yah. I think she got cut off. You're on mute now.
Oh, gosh. Salakia, y'all, for real.
Allow Yah. Thank you. Shalom, Sister Hannah, Yah.
I had a quick comment, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Auntie C, that verse you brought out, if you don't, how did that go? If you don't like correction, then you are stupid. Can you reread that again?
12:1, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid.
And this is confirmation that, one, that this study was meant to be in right on time. I think in the group chat, maybe not too long ago, posted that scripture, and it put a spanking on my behind, because I remember when I hated, rebuke. And at that time, I was stupid. Because I hated rebuke. And I was like, wow. And to see that word stupid, it really did something to my ruach. Like, wow, like I was stupid all of that time. And I just praise Yah for His mercy and grace, and allowing me time to get over that. Because, man, I was stupid. And now, after reading that, after going through that, I giggled, because I realized I was. Because only a fool would not want wisdom, especially from a righteous man or a righteous woman, or your Achotis. And your Ruach is saying you can't stand, rebuke, or depending on what the situation is, then you're stupid. So that for bringing up that verse on TC.
I guess I'm stupid on a lot of occasions too, even still, because a lot of times I don't like rebuke. It doesn't feel good, but I'm a thinker, so I have to think about it. But my immediate response is not positive. But I'm learning. So.
Hello, yeah.
Hello, yeah. First and foremost, I know we just started, but I do appreciate your participation thus far. So I just want to say that. Yes, ma'am. Sister Azania.
I just wanted to say this just really quickly as far as the word stupid, because I was sitting there looking it up, and I'm like, the Webster's Dictionary, like in 1828, it actually says a natural fool or fool from his birth, a human being in form but destitute of reason or the ordinary intellectual powers of a man. And I was just thinking about the fact of how it's not really truly realized that whenever we actually receive correction, that it is actually given or gifting the individual to have power, which we know that that's coming from the set apart spirit. And we know that that's, whenever we're being corrected, there's wisdom that it is that we're receiving. And then there's also a way in which it is that the Most High Yah wants to really show us to respond, because we know that discipline, it comes in order to train the individual, because there's a scripture that talks about it not necessarily feeling good, but the hope is for it to train the one in which it is that's being disciplined. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting, because it talks about the fact of being destitute of power, So, yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. The next positive spirit would be wisdom. And the negative spirit to that is folly. Proverbs 4:7. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and which with all by getting understanding. So understanding that to have wisdom, you have to go get it. It also requires a teachable Ruach as well, because what you think is wise now may not be wisdom to Yah. I do not believe gray hair deems you wise. I think gray hair deems you getting older. But wisdom in itself, I do not believe that, because there are some people I have met with gray hair and they're just not teachable. So it's like, how do you develop so much wisdom if you're not able to soak things in like a sponge when somebody gives you something new? There's another verse that talks about even a child should lead that. So it's like, sometimes a child may come up to you and say something that is wise. And it's okay. But even those people with the gray hair sometimes cannot take that wisdom. And so that's why you have to start looking at the spirit behind the fruit and the fruit that is being put on that tree. Because everything that looks good and smells good is not always good to the taste. So that's something to think about. And of course, negative would be folly. Just like we kind of just hit on it, so I don't think we have to hit on the folly again. But in the fact of being a fool and saying, oh, I got it all down. Well, what I'm used to is what I'm used to, and we're good in that. That's something a fool would say. You're already wise in your own eyes. Anybody want to hit on those two spirits there? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. For the wisdom, portion, I have had a couple of precepts for that. One of them is going to be Proverbs 9:9. Proverbs 9:9. Also James 1:19. So Proverbs 9:9, James 1:19, and then Proverbs 1:5, and they all have to do with wisdom. So Proverbs 9:9 says, "Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase his learning." And so, I think even at the beginning, Auntie C just mentioned about when we were talking about the definition of a teachable ruach, she mentioned that increase in learning. And so, with that verse in 9, where it just talks about a wise man understands that we're going to constantly grow and learn, that we're still being perfected, that none of us have it completely 100% together. And so wisdom tells us not only can we learn from each other, but there's still much that we have to learn in our walk and our understanding of Yah and how Yah wants us to move. So that was one. And then James 1:19. Again, when it talks about wisdom and then this teachable ruach, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." And so having that teachable ruach, and like we were even talking about, even when it comes to rebuke, it may not feel good in the moment, but maybe being, again, swift to hear and just truly trying to understand, well, what's the purpose of this rebuke? Where is it coming from? And slow to speak and slow to get defensive or angry, and allow the Ruach HaKodesh to minister to us in that time that we're receiving that wisdom and that rebuke, and allowing Yah to let that marinate within us, versus being quick to defend ourselves or speak up, and then we're not really being teachable, we're not learning from whatever it is, the reason that Yah called this rebuke to go forth. And then the last one was in Proverbs 1:5, where it says, a wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. So again, understanding that part of having that teachable ruach, because sometimes you're seeking out that wisdom, you're seeking out that wise counsel, because you want to grow all the more in where the Most High has you. So those are the things I wanted to share.
Auntie Kasaya, Mr. Sonia.
I still have my, I had Proverbs 9:9. So that's why I put my hand down. Is my hand still up? I'm sorry.
No, ma'am, it is not. I seen it, and I was like, I just don't want to miss it, just in case you did. So,
thank you. I had Proverbs 9:9. What in my hand?
Sister Zion. Did you have something? I seen your hand raised.
Okay, I didn't realize I was still muted. I apologize, y'all. I was like, oh my gosh. But it's because of the mention of wisdom. Because what it brings me to mind to think about is in Sirach, which is chapter 4, 17 and 18. I was trying to look it up really quick. Because with wisdom, it says, for at first she will walk with him on tortuous paths. She will bring fear and dread upon him and will torment him by her discipline until she trusts him, and she will test him with her ordinances. And then she will come straight back to him and gladden him and will reveal her secrets to him. And every time that I think about like wisdom, ever since I've read that, I also was thinking about how it actually takes like humility and submissiveness to be able to even recognize wisdom working in an individual. Because it's, because like according to Sirach, it says that wisdom is going to actually test that individual. And whenever the person is actually being tested, they may feel like things are just falling apart, but in the process of it, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's that this, like the spirit, like of wisdom is like testing that individual to see if that individual is going to respond with humility, with submissiveness, and even obedience to be able to receive of whatever it is that the Most High wants to place in that individual, and not necessarily probably, end up using wisdom the wrong way. But I always have thought that was really profound, just the fact of being tested in that way by wisdom.
I said, I'm sorry. Isn't it a verse that say wisdom was here before the creation? Like wisdom was here? I don't want to say it wrong, but
yes, Auntie, see, I think it's I don't even know if it's in that same book, but it's either the Wisdom of Solomon or Sirach 1 where it says that. Yes, ma'am.
And then the last one is obedience versus disobedience. And I didn't have verses for a lot of these areas because I want to get deeper into something if we have time. But obedience and disobedience is kind of self-explanatory. If you have obedience, you're most likely going to be able to be teachable. If you have disobedience, the things that you have been taught go out one ear into the other. Out into one ear, out the other. Okay? Anybody have anything for that? Or we can keep moving. Yes, ma'am. Sister Mia.
Yes, ma'am. I just had a couple more opposite ruachs that can happen if you don't have the teachable ruach. I have stubbornness, and I have Proverbs 29:1 for that. I have lack of self-awareness, Matthew chapter 7, verses 3 through 5, and that's explaining how to take the beam out your own eye before, giving correction. And also sometimes when we're receiving correction, we can sometimes lack self-awareness that we can't sometimes see that what we did was wrong, or whatever the case may be for that rebuke. And I also have distractions. Luke chapter 8, verse 14.
If you don't mind, can you put those verses in the chat so we can have them?
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on. Yes, ma'am. Email.
Yes, ma'am. So when you were talking about disobedient and obedience, and you were asking about did anybody have any comments for that, I was trying to find the verse, but basically, when it comes to that portion of, us in the Ruach, I think about rebellion a lot of times, that there's times where you can hear truth and wisdom, and we rebel against that, hence the disobedient part of it. And, understanding that for what it is like, what is that? I think it's in Galatians where it says, am I your enemy because I tell you the truth? And so, part of that disobedience sometimes when you're presented with wisdom or something that allows you to move forward in righteousness, and you rebel against that, that's where the disobedience follows. And so I just wanted to, bring that up as well.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Review. Do you have something to say? I see you raise your hand again.
Sorry, maybe my arm hit it by accident. Slakia.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so what are some things people say or do that you can tell they may not have a teachable ruach? If you need an example, I have one.
Oh, well, I have one. When people say they've been there, done that, they've done it all, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That was the same. What was it?
I had that first one that you brought out. Another one that I've heard is, baby, this is all I've done for 60 years. That's how I've been raised. Or, that is Old Testament, So those are some things that I was like, oh, you're not going to be able to be taught if you don't get rid of that mindset. So, it says, don't cast your pearls to swine. That's how you're able to discern spirits, so you don't go home crying, talking about, oh, Nana or Pops didn't hear what I was saying. Well, you could have discerned it by the way they were speaking. Yes, ma'am. Emo.
Yes, ma'am. Or you get the I know. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be a scenario where they're not operating like they know, but then when you tell them or you try to give, guidance or whatever, that, oh, I know that, or I know, and it's one of those where it's like, but their fruit is not showing, that they know. And to your point about how it says, be careful about casting your pearls to swine, there's also that verse that says, let the ignorant be ignorant. You know what I mean? That there is a point in time where it's like, if you're trying to teach and give wise counsel and things like that, and they continue to reject, that you just have to let them be, or whatnot as well.
All right, so I literally only have 9 minutes left, so I'm going to see. I'm not going to even rush it, so that'll be it. So I have examples of what this negative impact, and I'm hitting on the negative, but I am going to hit on the positive, y'all willing. But I'm hitting on the negative because I think a lot of times we may say or deem ourselves, oh, I have a teachable ruach. And you might be 100% right. You may have a teachable ruach when it comes to your head, or you may have a teachable ruach when it comes to, for me, college. But then in another aspect, you don't have a teachable ruach when it comes to this or that. So that's why I'm hitting on the negative and the different perspectives we can see according to the Bible and according to this word. Because right now you may not go through any of those situations that I may have brought up thus far because you're successful in that. There may be another situation that we may read today and you're like, oh, I fit in the category of folly. I didn't consider that folly. But now listening to the word, which is another thing of being teachable, I'm not going to bring out situations of, oh, this is what I went through and what I went through. Instead, we learn from the word and how to be teachable in that. So, and this is a little bit premature, but understanding when we know history, we are bound not to repeat it. But if we don't know the history, we are bound to repeat it. So this is why I'm coming from the word when coming with these examples. So, okay, for example, with the folly, I'm going to come and talk about Judges and Samson. Okay, not to do this in the character of that. So hopefully we can get through 2 of these examples before we have to meet the sister, but whatever y'all wills. All right, so if somebody can go to James 1:13 through 16. If somebody can go to Genesis 4:1 through 8. And I'll go to Isaiah 5. Okay. So who would like to take Genesis 4:1-8? Yes, ma'am. Sister Avia, thank you so much. And let me know who has James 1:13-16. I think Sister Azania, but okay. All right, Sister Azania, you can have that. Genesis 4:1-8 first, though. When you're ready, Sister Avia.
Yes, ma'am. And Adam knew Hawa, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gained a man, Yahuwah. And again she gave birth to his brother, Habel. And Habel became a keeper of sheep, but Cain became a tiller of the ground. And it came to be in the course of time that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to Yahuwah. And Habel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And Yahuwah looked to Habel in his offering, but he did not look to Cain in his offering. And Cain was very wroth, and his face fell. And Yahuwah said to Cain, why is he wroth towards you? And why is your face fallen? Is it not if you do good, you are to be accepted? And if you do not do good, towards the door is a sin. He is lying, and toward you is his desire, and you must rule over him. And Cain told Habel his brother, and it came to be, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Habel his brother and killed him.
Okay, thank you. Sister Azania, can you read James 1:13-16?
Yes, ma'am. It says, let no one say when he is enticed, I am enticed by Allah, for Allah is not enticed by evil matters, and he entices no one. But each one is enticed when he is drawn away by his own desires and trapped. Then when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it has been accomplished, brings forth death. Do not go astray, my beloved brothers.
So in this example here, I brought out this is the spirit of pride, right? Because in verse 7 of Genesis 4, it says, if thou, let's go back, verse 4, okay? So in Abel's he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, of the fat thereof, and Yahuwah had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had no respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So this is where he messed up. His countenance fell, and he was wroth. Okay, it says, be angry and sin not. Okay, you haven't committed the sin yet. But Yahuwah then says, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And remember the verse that says, tempt you. He will not. So he will not cause you to sin. So in here in verse 7, actually, Yah is like, do you know if you do well, your offering will be accepted as well? He's like, just change. Like, give me something new. Like, that's all you have to do. And now, if thou does not do well, then sin lieth at the door. So now, for Cain, sin lieth at the door, because instead of him taking the first option, Yah says, if you do well, thou shalt be accepted. You've decided, I'm not going to do well, so sin will lie at my door. Because why? According to James 1:13, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. So Cain was like, you know what? You don't like my offering? Cool. Let me off the person you like. Instead of saying, it may be easier for me to go get a righteous offering. But no, because he was enticed by his own lust and his own thinking, he decided to let his countenance fall and act upon it. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. So everything that Yah was bringing out, it went out the window, right? Lastly, in verse 15, yes. Then, when lust conceived it, bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Yes, ma'am, Ema.
Yes, ma'am. That was really good. Especially how you brought that out with that story, like, and taking time to really slow down on that verse 7 about if you do well, shall you not be accepted? Like, if you just heed to change, then you'll be fine. You know, we kind of gloss over that and be like, "Whoop, he smote his brother." But it's like, wow, you know, I think about when we talk about don't kill the messenger. It was like sometimes when you're the one providing the information, or maybe it's your Adon or whatever, and you're more focused on the fact that you don't like, you know, either the delivery or what the person said, and you don't step back and be like, but it is me, and I just need to change. But instead, you ready to take out the person, you know, that brought that truth to you. So that right there was powerful. That was powerful. Told out for that.
Allow, yeah. I know it's 3:00, but I just want to bring this one. Is she supposed to be coming on this one?
Yeah, she'll be coming through this link. So whenever she gets here, we'll pause. You keep flowing. I think I made you host, so I think you should see when she comes on. And so we can pause and do a meet and greet. And okay.
Let's read 16 through 18 of James 1. Sister Azania, are you still there? James 1.
Yes, I am.
16 through 18, please.
Okay, James 1 moment. You said 16 through 18 of James 1? Okay. So it says, do not go astray, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change nor shadow of turning. Having purposed it, he brought us forth by the word of truth, for us to be a kind of first fruits of his creatures.
Okay. So.
Oh, wait a minute. It says, but rather to hearken to the word, to meditate on it, and to do thereafter. I apologize. Allow you.
So, if you go back to understanding what Cain was supposed to do, what type of offering do we usually bring to the Most High Yah? Anybody? It was in verse. Let me not say it. I'm just gonna. Anybody know what type of offering we usually bring the Most High Yah? Why wasn't his offering acceptable compared to his brother?
Obedience.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sister Avia.
Worship, humility.
Okay. Anybody else? So we understand that Cain. Let's go back to Genesis. Keep your thumb in James. But let's go back to Genesis 4:1.
You're talking about in terms of like the type of offering, like how he offered meat versus. I'm trying to make sure I'm tracking with you.
Yeah. So Abel, he also brought the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. But unto Cain his offering had no respect. Okay? Cain brought of the fruits of the ground. Alright? And the offering unto Yahuwah. So a lot of times, this is what I was looking for, y'all. A lot of times our offering is the first fruits of it, of what we bring out to the Most High, the first fruits, right? Knowing that, I think there's a verse that's talking about, you know, the one that Sister Sam was trying to bring out to us when we first had harvested fruits and things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but giving Yah the firstlings of what we produce, right? So if you go back to verse 18, of his own will beget he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. So I feel like that comes back in full circle in the fact of that we are a kind of first fruits to Yah. And like in the beginning in verse 17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. Because we're a kind of first fruits unto Yah, and everything is from above, why would we be surprised that he wouldn't take anything but the best, take anything but the first, if that makes sense? And Sister Abia?
Yes, ma'am. I also wanted to add that we can give and present Abiyah our best, our first, physically, but where is our heart when we give the offering? Where is our humbleness when we give the offering? Where is our praise when we give the offering? Because Abiyah's not going to want to have a grudging heart when we give, even though it is of our first fruits.
So I definitely, yes, ma'am. Sister, I don't know who went first. So, Sister is on you.
I was trying to look for it, but I was actually thinking about the scripture that talks about us offering our bodies as a living sacrifice, set apart and the Most High. And then I'm thinking like a couple of Shabbats ago, whenever we were, as far as the lesson, even though we're still on it, but I was thinking it was a couple of Shabbats ago where I was kind of just looking at the understanding of what it means even more of how to love Yah with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so, just going in line with what Via had said about with our heart posture. But I was just thinking in relation to that too, as far as our whole body, our whole self, being able to be offered to the Most High.
Yes, ma'am.
Hallelujah. And I sent that verse, I think Achoti was talking about Romans 12, 1-2 as well. But looking at traffic, lost my train of thought. Sorry, y'all. Hold on a second. Sorry, it was something that Achoti Nia said, and I'm trying to remember what she said that she had sparked. She had made a comment. I was like, yeah, that's a good point. She was talking about the heart matter of it, like how, you can give an offering to someone or to Yah, but it's about your heart intention. And I was just going about that and thinking about that teachable Ruach. But I think you had asked a question too about, discerning, if a person has a teachable Ruach or not, that even when you communicate something to somebody and how they respond to it is also, it shows you the heart of the matter. Like they can be like, oh, okay, well, thanks. You know what I mean? But you can tell by their response, did they really take heed to what you said? Are they really open to what you're trying to tell them? Sometimes they don't even have to use their words. You can tell in body gestures. When you're trying to give somebody wisdom or something like that and their head's cocked to the side or their arms are folded or they take that deep breath. You can hear, or you can see, how that person's heart is in terms of their response. Like, I'll be completely honest. Sometimes when my Adon is giving correction or is trying to impart wisdom and maybe I'm not feeling it, my eye contact is not the best. And I have to be mindful of that because that's a subtle, form of rebellion or whatnot. And so really checking that heart because people can tell, what I'm saying, when we're interacting with one another. I can tell when I'm being received by an Achoti, when I'm giving correction. I can tell when that Achoti's not feeling it. You know what I mean? So Toda Rabah Achoti Avia for bringing that up because that is so true. It's not just about, we talk about the function of things, but it's the function and the heart when it comes to stuff like that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sister Via.
Good point, Ima. And I wanted to add to what you said regarding the receiver of the rebuke. Because I've been in positions where, like, if I'm being rebuked, even from an Achoti or my Adon, where, like you said, I wasn't feeling it, or you can tell by my body language that I may not like it, but I'm still receiving it. But I'm the type of person that I will analyze the situation. And it may take me, the rest of that day to see where I was wrong, and analyze how I could do things better. And I try to fix that, whether to repent to that person or going forward, my actions show that I was repentful of what took place, or I accepted that rebuke and I'm moving in my correction of the acceptance of that rebuke. And I also wanted to add that when that person is getting the rebuke, to be forgiving, even in the midst of them, giving you a face or the body gesture or whatever have you, because that gives the person, that opportunity to be like, she gave this to me. I didn't receive it well, but she didn't say it mean. I can tell it was love behind it. It's me. Because they have no choice but to look in themselves. If they're a righteous Achoti, they have no choice but to look, hallelujah, to look within themselves to see what they did wrong in that matter. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Okay. So now we're going to go to Isaiah 5:4. And this is how the Most High has handled things. So, he tells us, it gives us examples that, one, we can get through anything he gives us. But also, we always have a way out. He will not tempt you more than you can bear, and there will be always a way out of that temptation. So this is what Cain should have said. He should have said this, according to Isaiah 5:4. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought forth wild grapes. Now, we understand this is the parable of the vineyard, and, the Most High talking about how he sowed these grapes were sown, and they ended up being wild. But the reason why I bring this out, because he could have been like, 1 second, let me let her back in. He could have been like, oh, my offering was not acceptable. What is a better offering or sacrifice? Because sometimes you just truly don't know. Sometimes it's like, go try again. But other times people need instructions because they truly just don't know. And so he could have been like, what could have I done better? What could I have done better? Or what offering would have been acceptable to you, O Yah? Because you are giving me another chance. If you do as well. So you're not saying that you're not going to take my offering, another offering. You're just telling me, if I do it well, so be it. Same thing here in 5:4. What could have been done more to my vineyard? What can I do better? So that's another way to cast out pride and humble yourself when you mess up. Okay, what was the answer you were looking for? So I can best next time move better. That's the teachable ruach. Understanding this is where the eraser comes in. Understanding that was not a good answer. I gotta erase that. Let me try again. Right? Alright? So the next one, are we good on that? Thumbs up, we're good on that? Ruachs are well with that. Thank you. Fear. Genesis 19:14 through 20 and 26, if somebody wants to grab that. And Luke 17:32.
Y'all, I just have to pause for a minute and give Abba Yah praise. When I tell you we were almost in an accident, and I praise Yah for his covering and protection, and for my Adon being alert. These people were out here speeding, and it was so bad that people had to move out the way to not hit us, or whatnot. So just total about Abba Yah. I just wanted to give Yah praise and glory for that, because he just covered us and he just protected us, and I'm so grateful for it.
Okay. Allow ya.
Allow ya.
Okay. Who wanted to pick up Genesis? Sister Abia. Who wants to pick up Luke? Okay, I see her mouth moving, so I think it's Sister Kasaya.
Yeah, I'm going to the car. I'll pick it up. I'll pick up Luke.
Okay. When you're ready, Sister Abia, I'm trying to keep it moving.
Okay. Oh, first thing, halal Yah for Abiya's protection, hedge of protection over you. And you don't have to stop the lesson just because I have to hop off at 4. Just wanted to let you know that. So definitely take your time. And this is Genesis chapter 19, verses 14 through 20. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who had married his daughters, and said, "Get up, get out of this place, for Yahuwah is going to destroy this city." But to his sons-in-law, he seemed to be as one joking. And when morning dawned, the messengers urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city." And while he loitered, the men took hold of his hand, and his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, Yahuwah having compassion on him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And it came to be, when they had brought them outside, that he said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be consumed." And Lot said to them, "Oh no, Yahuwah. Look, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have increased your loving commitment which you have shown me by saving my life. But I am unable to escape to the mountains, lest calamity overtake me and I die. Look, please, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. Is it not a small matter? And let my life be saved."
Okay. Verse 26.
But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a post of salt.
Okay. Luke 17:32.
17:32. Remember Lot's woman.
Literally, that's the verse. Remember Lot's wife, right? Remember his woman, right?
Yes.
So, Genesis 19, it talks about how Lot's wife looked back. I want to hit on verse 15. Actually, verse 14. And Lot went out and spake to his sons-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, "Get out of this place, for Yahuwah will destroy the city." Okay? So we know on their part, they end up staying. That was foolish. But where fear was brought out, where fear in the negative sense was brought out, where she was not able to be teachable, was when she looked back in verse 26. But his wife looked back from behind, and she became a pillar of salt. Does anybody know why I put this in the category of fear, other than my mother? No.
Because I'm giving that example of Peter when he was walking on the water and he took his eyes off of Yah. That was his fear. So I guess her looking back was fear, and she had to see.
First. That's true. That's true. That is right. Yes, Sister Abia?
I'm not 100% sure, but didn't she have other family members behind as well? Okay.
So we're understanding through books in the Apocrypha that she may have had the daughters still back there who were married to these sons-in-laws, and they stay back. So it was probably like fear of, leaving your part of your family behind that, like Auntie C said, caused her to take her eyes off the Most High Yah and what He was doing for who was present with her, you know. My thought is your daughters have covering. They made that decision for them. So it's whatever. You might want to stay with your covering and your uncovered daughters. But instead, she allowed fear to take her eyes off the Most High Yah. Yes, ma'am. Sister Abia.
Yes, ma'am. And Toda, for bringing that out, as we were going through that, I was thinking of the urgency that Abiyah put in Mayadan to get out of where we was at, Harford County, a little bit past Baltimore. And my fear was leaving my family behind. They were all that I knew all my life. They took care of me when I was down. And I didn't want to leave my mom behind, had my dad, my siblings. But the urgency was so urgent that I didn't. But in the back of my mind and in my heart, I still carry my family with them to the point where when we got on the land here in North Carolina, I still missed my family. And it took a little minute for me to get over that type of missing, because it was starting to be longing. And we actually went into longing and how, you know, that's associated with demons and things of that nature. So in a sense, even though I didn't turn back, in a way I did, because of my Ruach, my heart, was still with my family at that time. But I am glad that I did listen and I did come out, because when COVID hit, that was like the first areas that was heavily impacted, and we were right there. So halal Yah, and I praise Yah for His mercy and His grace that I didn't become a pillar of salt.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying halal Yah. After you,
I just wanted to say before I forget, because you know I always forget points that I have. All praises to for traveling mercies for the house of Moshe, and you know how we do. You know what happened at the remnant, how we was praising the Most High, and now we give Him praise and we're learning His word. So you all are covered. I just wanted to say that before I forget.
halal Yah.
Yeah, Toda Rabbah, Achotis for that. Toda Rabbah, yes, the Father is merciful. No, as we're talking about Lot's wife, and you know, yes, she had the daughters that stayed behind. But what kept coming in my mind is, you know, just do what you're told in this regard. That sometimes, you know, when we talk about movement of Yah, sometimes Yah will tell you to move, and you just gotta move. And you can't question, you know, and I'll give you a perfect example. There's been times with traveling where my Don and I have been somewhere, let's say there's a different city or something like that, and he might just say, Sade, get in the car. He doesn't mean Sade ask me questions like, well, why we gotta get in the car? What do you see? That's not part of the instructions. The instructions were, Sade, get in the car. Why? Because he probably sees or knows something that I know not of, and that should be enough for me that he said, get in the car. You know, when they were to leave Sodom and Gomorrah, he said, don't look back. You know what I mean? Keep moving forward. And part of having that teachable Ruach is important because it could save our soul. You know what I mean? You know, I don't want it to escape us. It's not a light thing. Look what we're doing and how we're living our lives. We are following instructions. What instructions? We are following the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Praise Yah for a teachable Ruach. Because we could be going into utter destruction. You know, I'm sure we can all think about somebody where we have presented Yah's truth to them, and they were like, nah, I'm not trying to learn that. I'm not trying to take on that. And that literally will lead them to death. And so when we're talking about Lot's wife, all I kept thinking was, just do as you're told. You know what I'm saying? And when I say to do the research research or ask follow-up questions. We just have to move. And if it's from righteousness, then we can discern it's from the Ruach, then praise Yah for our ability to follow instructions and do it well. So that's all I want to say.
So that leads to exactly why people aren't teachable, right? You know, I touch and agree in that. In the same factor, though, understanding that there are many times where you just don't have time to ask questions or whatever. But for this situation, right, she should have done what she was told, and she started to do what she was told, but didn't finish through out of the negative spirit being fear, or the negative spirit being disobedience, which leads to what she was saying as well. I believe there's, you know, how I was talking about this feast, the goal is to cut out the roots, not just the branches. The root is an unteachable spirit. These are just branches within itself that apply to getting rid of an unteachable spirit. So allow y'all. Alright, so the next one is folly. I'm going to read this because it's kind of long and I can skip through some verses because I know like what I want to hit on. But we're going to go to Judges 16, 6 through 21. Judges 16, 6 through 21 reads as follows. And Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee." And Samson said unto her, "If thou bind me with 7 green withs that were never dry, then shall I be weak, and be as another man." Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green withs, which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber, and she said unto him, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And he brake the whips, as a thread of tow is broken when it toucheth the fire. So his strength was not known. And Delilah said to Samson, "Behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound." And he said unto her, "If thou bind me fast with new ropes, and never were occupied, then shall I be weak and be as another man." Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him therewith, and said unto him, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And there were liars in wait abiding in the chamber, and he brake them off his arms like a thread. And Delilah said unto Samson, "Hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound." And he said unto her, "If thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web." And she fastened it with the pin, and said unto him, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And he awakened out of his sleep, and went away with the pin of beam and with the web. And she said unto him, "How canst thou say, I love thee, when thine heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me with these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein thy great strength lie." And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, "There have not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto Elohim from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak, and be like any other man." And when Delilah saw it, that he had told her all his heart, she went and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up this once, for he has showed me all his heart." Then lords of the Philistines came unto her, and brought money into her hand. And she made him sleep upon her knee. She called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And he awoke out of his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times before and shake myself. And he wist not that the Elohim was departed from him. But the Philistines took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with fetters of brass, and he did grinds in the prison house. So this is where you see folly, right? I'm like, my brother, why are you so dumb to tell her 3 times? For you have seen this 3 times. For it says in 2 Corinthians 13:1, where 2 or more witnesses are, all truths are established. She done it 3 times. All truths are established that she is trying to get rid of your strength. Why would you continue to tell her your heart, which really is tell her who Yah is in you, what he has gifted you to do for your people. A lot of times Auntie C tells me, hey, not everybody needs to know what you got going on. Not Samson. Not everybody needs to know your strength, what you can do behind closed doors, in front of closed doors. Not everybody needs to know that. And so this is why I put this under folly, because you weren't teachable in that moment to say, let me test the spirit by the spirit, and this spirit ain't right. So let me not. Instead, he was unteachable in that moment, and he lost his power. The Most High gave it back to him for one more time. It had nothing to do with his hair, but it's the fact of you weren't teachable, and you got played. So anybody have anything to say towards that story right there?
How you are functioning, and I know that even though I'm older, I can gain wisdom from you just as much as you gain wisdom from me. That's a beautiful example just in Yashrael, to have wise women and older women that they had at this kind of my age to learn each other, and to a walk in Yah that we think we're so high up, or we think we're in such to an elevated state that who are you to tell me anything, or who are you to say something? That's dangerous. And we see that even with the story of Samson, that it cost him his glory and the honor the Most High have bestowed upon him. So we have to be very, very careful. I always tell people this is a walk of humility. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? This is a walk of humility. And the moment we get out of that humbleness and we go towards pride and arrogance, as it said, pride, comes before a fall. So that we have to be very, very careful on that.
I'm going to come back to this last part. I just want to dish out these verses. These are the last verses I have. So I just want to dish them out so we can, whatever. So if Sister Azania, can you get Ecclesiastes 12:13? Because I is driving. If you're still on at this time, James 1:19, Sister Abia. If not, I'll end up taking it. If you can take Proverbs 3:5-6, and then I'll pick up the other Proverbs. And then whoever wants to have the last 2 when we are doing it, you guys can. These are my last verses here, so that's why I just want to dish them out, so when we get there, we can just flow. So here's the last story regarding unteachable, the negative side and the negative impact of an unteachable Ruach. Jeremiah 3:6-11. Anybody would like to take it? If not, I can read it because I'm there. Okay, hello, yeah. Okay, you got it.
All right, Jeremiah chapter 3:6-11. Is that correct? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please. Yeah, that's
okay. Yahuwah said also unto me in the days of Yoshiyahu the king, have you seen that which backsliding Yashrael has done? She has gone up every high mountain and under every green tree, and there she has placed the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn you unto me. But she returned not. And her treacherous sister Yehuda saw it, and I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Yashrael broke wedlock, I had put her away and given her a separate divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Yehuda feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land, and she broke wedlock with stones and with stocks. And yet for all her treacherous sister Yehuda has not turned unto me with her whole heart, but vainly, says Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said unto me, the blacksliding Yashrael has justified herself more than treacherous Yehuda.
Okay, so here we see the act of disobedience and obedience, right? So the disobedience was the fact that you've seen, okay, your sister has come back to the Most High Yah, and you still decided to walk in your disobedience and commit your whoredoms and play with other idols instead of coming back to the Most High Yah. I feel like that one is very self-explanatory, because that is what got Yasharel in trouble in the first place, is our disobedience. Yeah. Anybody have anything to say towards that? Well, yeah. Okay. So now just the last part in what I want to bring out is scriptures versus relationships. So a question that a sister asked, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so powerful. Like, are you reading to respond or reading to understand? So are you reading this word to respond like, oh yeah, okay, my response is, okay, wear your head covering when you pray and prophesizing. So y'all can, instead of just reading to understand, not necessarily how it's going to best maneuver in your life, a lot of times we read to respond and say, oh, it's not Yahuwah, it's Yahweh Shai seeing this, and it's just like, just read for a second to understand what he's trying to bring out, that he's going to give us a new name, that he's going to do this and do that. These are things that we don't need to be fighting over, because we really just need to be understanding instead of responding of, oh, we should cook our thing this way compared to this. But did you read to understand? A lot of times when we read to understand, the response does not need to be had, because the understanding will give you all wisdom according to the Ruach, because that's what you should be reading in. So, Ecclesiastes 12:13.
Okay, so Ecclesiastes 12:13. Oh, you know what? Why in the world? I was looking at Jeremiah. Like, sorry. Okay, so it says, let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter, for fear Allah and guard his commands, for this applies to all mankind.
So it's like, let us hear the whole conclusion. A lot of times my dad would say context kills false doctrine. So a lot of times people are like, see, we can't do this, but then you didn't read above or you didn't read under, where it's like, you can't do this if you're 50 years old, or you can't do this if you're, but because you didn't read for understanding, or you didn't hear the whole matter, you've already decided what you wanted to decide prior to understanding the full context. And then that's where doctrines come up, or that's where misunderstandings come, because you're not hearing to understand, but you're hearing to respond. You're hearing to respond. Yes, there's Sarabia. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, y'all. Toda for bringing that out. And I've read that verse so many times, but the fear of Yah kept hitting me. And then when you were talking about you're hearing to respond, I still struggle in that area where either I want to say something or rebuttal or respond, and my response isn't needed. It's a rebuke, take it. It's a lesson, take it. And in that instance, I don't have a teachable ruach, because my heart is not open to hearing at that point. And if I hear, I'm not hearing, like you said, the whole matter. I'm not hearing, what the rebuke is or what that person's trying to tell me, because I'm so focused on my flesh, and my flesh is rising, and I can't hear. I don't want to hear. I'm not, receiving anything, so how can I learn, to receive if I'm in that state of being? So Torah for that verse, that hit home. Hallelujah.
While you're still on the mic, I just want to hit on this so you can read this verse. So, in the relationship aspect, are you thinking of response or listening to understand? A lot of times, especially when I was younger, but I try to do better about this now, is even if I know I'm going to respond to something, I try to put that, like, okay, even if I'm quiet, there's times where I'm quiet, but I'm already thinking, okay, I'm going to respond to that point this way. But if you're already thinking of how you're going to respond to something in this way, you're half thinking about your response, and the other half is listening. And so the question is, are you thinking of response or listening to understand? So are you hearing what the person is trying to tell you? Or are you thinking about, oh, that point won't sit right. That point doesn't sit right. And now you're thinking about how you're going to respond to that point, but then you're not listening to what's being said. If you can read James 1:19, please.
Yes, ma'am. So then, my beloved brothers, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath.
And a lot of times we think about, and this is something I struggle with too, Sister V, a lot of times we think about, oh, when this verse says, swift to hear, slow to speak, it doesn't necessarily, it's just talking about, like, if I have a sister talking and I cut her off. But the thought process starts here. So this is why it says swift to hear, because you wouldn't be swift to speak if you were truly listening, if you were truly hearing, if you were truly absorbing. You wouldn't be so quick to speak. So having a teachable ruach in both of these aspects, in the scripture aspect, is understanding the whole matter before deciding how you want to move. In the relationship aspect, hearing the whole matter and cultivating what is being said before you speak. There was something said, and I think this is so powerful. Let's see. Let me see if I can skip real quick. Okay, don't walk into conversations in offense, because the flesh will always preserve itself. So a lot of times when somebody is trying to bring out something, we walk in offense, or why are you saying that, or that was inappropriate, or, instead of walking it out and understanding the whole matter. Where is this coming from? Why is this being said? Because the flesh does not want you to speak on those things, or does not want you to hear. Yes, Auntie Kasiah.
I just wanted to just speak on that, like to say for myself, a lot of times when I'm angry, and I'm working on that, I am getting better. A lot of times when I'm upset, I don't want to hear what you have to say. So whatever you're saying, I'm not hearing and I'm not listening. But when I take a moment, even if I know that I'm right, and I try now to look at if I'm right, I can still look at myself and see what I could have done to change the situation, even if I was right. So with me taking a moment to just be quiet and just hear what somebody has to say, it's better in my communication skills with my Don, with my children, and with other people. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Proverbs 3:5-6. Who has that one?
That's me. Oh, that's me. Can you hear me? Okay. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in El Yahuwah with all your heart, and lean not your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths.
Okay, same thing here. Are you reading to respond or reading to understand? We don't need to have a response if it already tells us that path. We just need to understand that their path is going to be made, right? And that's for me too, because in this young age, they already tell me where I'm supposed to be, what my path is supposed to look like. So, yes, reading to understand and not just to respond. Yes, ma'am, Sister Abia.
Achoti Nia, I truly appreciate this study. And let me say this. The Ruach told me, don't leave. I even told the Achoti that, that I'm running late, but I will, I'll be there. And as soon as he told me don't leave, the verse I told you about, that came up, and now this one. So that verse has been with me for so long that I can even remember, even when I was quote unquote Christian. And I kid you not, every time I read that verse, it has so much of a deeper meaning each time. And when you linked having a teachable Ruach and being slow to speak and all that was previously said, I never thought to link it with listening and having an open heart, receiving rebuke, to love rebuke, because I praise Yah for Maya Don and you all, because the rebukes I receive, they're not worldly rebukes. They are righteous rebukes. And to hear that verse again, and like I said, to link it with everything that we are discussing, that is so powerful. That is so deep. We can break that verse into so many angles just with having a teachable Ruach within that. And I just wanted to say Toda for bringing that verse up, because now I see it in a whole nother light, and I'm getting so much more understanding and even more freedom in hearing the whole matter, because all of this still ties into love. All of this ties into Ahava. All of this ties into heart condition. And I was just thinking about when we come together for Sukkot, and all of us Achotis coming together, we all have our own personalities, and things are going to come up. Somebody may have to pull somebody to the side and say something to you. How are you going to act? How are you going to receive? And it doesn't even have to be rebuke. It can just be a slight correction. It can be an instruction. It may be something an Achoti tells you to do, and you don't know how to do it, and you may feel vexed about it because they asked you and you don't want to. It could be anything. How are you going to receive that Achoti? How are you going to listen? How are you going to operate in love in all aspects of that, whether you're giving it, receiving it, and doing it? So again, Toda Rabbi for bringing up that scripture. Allow y'all.
Allow y'all. I'm glad you could stay. I am almost done, so it works out. Proverbs 17:27-28 and Proverbs 29:11. I have those. So if anybody want to take the last two, that would be awesome. Okay. Proverbs 17:27-28 reads as follows: He that hath knowledge spareth his word, and a man of understanding hath an excellent spirit. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise. So that verse right there can be cross-reference to the verse we brought out earlier about a fool will have more hope than those who consider himself wise, right? And he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. If you go to Proverbs 29:11, this is a good cross-reference as well. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterward. A thing that caught me is it doesn't say the wise doesn't speak at all. It just says the wise keep it in till afterward. And like I was telling Sister Avia, this is something I have to work on, right? They acting a fool, y'all, showing out. Okay. But it doesn't mean that I can't speak. But like a lot of times I'm told there's a time and place, right? So it is what, where am I? A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. And that's what I'm understanding here as well. Okay, you keep it in until afterwards. But during that conversation, am I making sure I'm still hearing the whole matter instead of just thinking of my response? Like, okay, what am I going to say? I am going to hold it in after, but making sure you're hearing 100% and not just 50. Anybody want to take 1 Peter 3:15 and Ecclesiastes 7:9? Sister Avia, 1 Peter?
I have 1 Peter 3:2. Oh, okay.
Who's that? Okay. Can you take, Sister Avia, can you take Ecclesiastes 7:9? And you can go ahead and read the 1 Peter.
Yes, Sam. 1 Peter 3:15, but sanctify Yahuwah Elohim in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asks you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear.
Y'all, 1 second. Right. So here, understanding that this, are you, going back to the question, are you reading to respond or reading to understand? If you're always reading with the response, you're not able to fully understand. And this, to me, is a command that we are to be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh a reason of hope. But if we're always responding after, okay, it tells us women we should be quiet in the assembly and submit to our own men and ask our own men. Well, what happens if we read to understand, and maybe you will have some wisdom or understanding, because with wisdom comes understanding, right? And so we also have to have an answer for those when they ask us, what is the hope in us, with meekness and fear. So I didn't want to get confused when I say, oh, read to understand, not to respond, because there is a response that is going to end up being needed eventually. But understanding that every time we read doesn't mean we got a question or we got to say something about that scripture didn't sit right with me, because it's not always needed. Yes, ma'am.
So, that part at the end where it talks about to fear, and it goes back to even what Achoti Nia had mentioned earlier, where even if you're the person that's teaching, it's your approach matters as well. Because, when I think about even for the Father with us and how he got us to understanding of who he is, if we could all go back to that time when the Father was leading us into his truth, how did he lead us into his truth? You know what I mean? Was it like you were smacked over the head? Or was he gentle with you and he kind of opened your eyes to see him for who he is so you can see who you are? And so even in our approach, when we're teaching, like we talked about, our delivery matters too. I always say that Abba Yah is a gentleman. He has that verse that says, I stand at the door and knock. You know what I mean? And so if he stands at the door and knocks, you know what I'm saying? And, he's allowing us to seek him, and he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Then even when we're teaching, should we not also be meek and be fearful in the fact that as we're teaching, we better be teaching the things of Yah, because we don't want to be out of order in the things that we're teaching either. So no, that just, that really stuck out to me when you were reading that verse.
Sister Avia?
Yes, ma'am. Do not be hasty in your ruach, to be vexed, for vexation rests in the bosom of fools. Let me drop my mic on that. Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, please.
The Ruach is definitely upon us. That was definitely for me. Cause that's an area that I'm working on as well. To not be hasty in your Ruach, to be vexed. And to see it in black and white. I praise Abba Yah for bringing that out today. And for me to study even deeper on that and to meditate, on that. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And that's what I was getting at in this, where do not walk into a conversation with offense, because the flesh will always preserve itself. And that's true, because in that verse it talks about do not be hasty. Can you read that last part again, Sister Via?
For vexation rest in the bosom of fools, that part?
For the vexation rest in the bosom of fools. So, having a teachable Ruach is, this is something I can work on. They're telling me this out of love, not because they want me to be their slave for the rest of my days. Or they're telling me this out of love, so when my parents pass, or when I move to somebody else's house, I'll know how to do it. Not necessarily because, because sometimes, I'm going to be honest, when stuff is put in our group chat, like, who left the chicken feet open? Or, this is how you clean a dish. I'm like, my Ruach gets vexed because I'm like, dang, you didn't put all my stuff out there. Like, you could have just came and told me privately. Like, dang, girl, now they don't think I can't close up stuff properly. Offense or vexation. Instead of, it's a teachable moment. Hey, who knows? Jeremiah may not be able to close a bag of chips properly either. So this may help him, But it's hard to think about that when the flesh, it's like, yeah. So that's something that you want to think about as well. So ponder on that. All right. So lastly, and I probably say, okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure before I said too much. All right, so it's just questions, okay? So a quote I seen in history class, those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. Israel, the reason why we're in what we're in, because we repeated a lot of stuff, we weren't teachable. So glad you're here, Sister Via, because I was like, oh, Sister Via's gonna miss my demonstration. So let me see if I could get light. Okay, so this is my demonstration. Like I told y'all, I'm a visual person. Like, I see everything. Like, I have to see everything, even in the Word. So if I could draw it out, which I cannot draw, but, like, if I could see it out, it works. All right. So, generational curses, right? This is because we weren't teachable. And this is what happens to us nowadays as well. Okay. So this is my daughter right here. Okay. This is my great-great-grandmother. Okay? So my great-great-grandmother, let's just say her parents hated the Most High. And it poured on for her. Okay? This is my grandmother, who is not in Torah, by the way. Okay? But she has some attributes that my mom can testify of a Torah woman. Okay? This is Torah. My mother now knows Torah, right? But she came into it late 30s. Okay? The Torah still cleansing, right? It's still good. I came into Torah 16, 17, 18. And that's how generational curses go away, right? This is how a teachable Ruach gets better, right? You have to take some things that don't feel good and make them into something that's right. Now, I'm praying that the rest of this in me will be taken out through my daughter, because she will be raised in the truth. Through the Most High, hopefully, it will get clearer than this. But having a teachable ruach now, if I mess up, we start the whole process over again. And she has to clean it out, and he has to clean it out, and she has to clean it out, because we don't have a teachable ruach. So the goal is we clean out the vessels, so eventually we all look clear, or our generations after generations look clear. Okay. So I just wanted to show that an example of, yes, teachable ruach is being able to take rebuke and learn from it, but it's bigger than us. It's way bigger than us. Sister Avia, yes, ma'am.
Shalom. And correct me if I'm out of context with this verse, but I have to go along with your demonstration. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12. And it says, "For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known."
So operating is twofold, right? Because you remember I was telling you context because false doctrine. I'm not going to lie. When you start reading that, I was like, what does that mean? But then I skimmed up, right? When I was a child, I spake as a child, and I understood as a child. I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. So yes, there are things now we're going to know the things that the Most High knows, but also I don't think like a child. I don't move like a child. I don't move like my great-grandmother. I love the Most High. I don't hate him. You know? So I think that verse does go well with that. Anybody have anything to say to my demonstration? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hallelujah for that. I'm visual too, but to just see that in effect, like, because we are cleansed, to your point, it's bigger than us, and that this affects generations, because like you said, generational curses, but also generational blessings. We are blessed because of Father Abraham, and we call ourselves daughters of Sarah, so all praises to the Most High Yah for that, because it just adds to the diligence that we have to have, not just for ourselves, but for our future generations. And, I do think about that as an imam. I think about your children and your children's children and how blessed they're going to be because they were brought up in this truth. So, just seeing the visual with the glasses, and to your point that at some point, praise Yah, those generations, that'll be a clear glass. And then Achoti Nia bringing out that burn. So I just told her about hallelujah, all praises.
Hallelujah. So, I'm going to show you guys. Yes, ma'am. Auntie Kasaya.
I just wanted to say, that demonstration, was awesome. Like, because of me, I'm older and I raised my children in Christianity and they're grown. And now I get the chance to, instill into my grandchildren, but it's still that generation with my children because I came into the truth so late. It's like now their children, or my son's children, are raised Catholic. So when they come to me, it's like I'm trying to teach them the new way that I learned, but it's still, with my son being raised in Christianity, and like I said, me being older, coming into the truth, and they're being older, it's like if their children don't get it, it's like that. It still won't be that repeated history, but prayer changes things. But that demonstration was awesome. So Toda for that.
Wow, yeah. Like I said, I was talking to a sister in Texas. She said, yeah, wickedness ran into my family tree until it ran into me. I was like, oh, where did that from? Ishan Burgundy. So I want to play this for you guys as we wrap up. But also, remember that demonstration when you hear that part. Wickedness ran into my family tree until it ran into me. So, an unteachable spirit, an unlovable spirit, an unrighteous spirit, a prideful spirit ran in my family until it ran into me. See if I can share this. Remember, I just want you guys to ask yourself, like, how do my actions or lack thereof affect another generation? Is my spirit teachable? Because if not, it affects the next generation. What you decide you don't want to learn, your next generation is going to have to learn. Benefits of being teachable. You'll understand others better. I'm not sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay. Benefits of being teachable. You understand others better. You won't walk in a conversation and offense because we already know your flesh will try to preserve itself. Wisdom will follow humility, like Ishan said, meekness, but also understanding you're blessing another generation. So lastly, just to end this, I have 3 questions for you guys. Understanding what we learned today, what is the benefit of having a teachable Ruach? Anybody can answer. Yes, ma'am.
The benefits: increased wisdom. You can find that in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 9. Spiritual growth. That's 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 18. Improved relationships. That's in Ephesians 4, verses 29 through 32. Effective discipleship. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2. And Elohim's guidance, Psalm 25 and 9.
And if everybody had any verses, I personally would like to see them. So if you want to put it in our group chat, I'm sure it will bless others. If you weren't able to, because I know you guys studied a lot. So I would like to see them for my repertoire. So if you send it to me on WhatsApp privately, that's fine. But I'm sure other sisters will want to know too. So put on the Daughters of Zion if you can. Anybody want to answer that question?
I will. I had having an open heart to learn puts you in a position to receive wisdom from Yah and from others. I have a bunch of chapters and verses, but I'll put it into the group chat because I'm finally settled. My 5-minute ride lasted 30 minutes.
I was like, oh wow, she's still driving. Remember, your life is a test, so you have to ask yourself if you're passing or failing. When you ask yourself, are you passing or failing, it comes with, it's just like in school, you get taught something and then you get tested on it. Same thing with life. We're being taught how to work and feast and worship so we can be able to pass for the kingdom, because a lot of people don't understand. Yeah, these feasts are nice to remember the Most High, but He's still going to have them in His kingdom. So you're going to want to pass this test here so you can get the reward of an A+, the reward of eternal life. Be teachable on this side so you can get your reward on the next. And this is rhetorical. Hopefully you asked yourself this question before you studied yourself and before I started. Are you teachable? And now looking back, you ask yourself that again. And if it's no, you know what aspects you need to work on. I can say honestly for me, not in all aspects am I teachable. And I have to work on that. But being teachable, number one, is putting your pride aside and being humble enough to even admit that. So that's a start. Go, Nia. But I know I have a lot of ways to go. So allow y'all. Does anybody have anything else to say as I'm done rambling and talking? I appreciate you guys listening to me.
Yeah, I just want to say, Toda Rabbi, this has definitely been a blessing, the conversation, the study, what has been brought out into the Word, the areas where it pricked, specifically where it's like, there were some ouch moments where it's like, yeah, I need to reflect on that, a little bit more. So, Toda Rabbi for the Ruach HaKodesh, and how the Ruach used you, in facilitating this study today, and just moving through the conversation and the examples and the testimonies. So, Toda Rabbi, and all praise to the Most High Yah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hallelujah. And yes, Toda Rabbi, Achoti Nia, for your time, your astutedness, if that's a word, your wisdom, and for all of us to be able to receive what you have brought forth today. And I praise Yah for opening my eyes even more, and deepening my understanding, and seeing even more what I need to pray on, work on, study on. The visual I loved. I'm a visual learner as well. I have to either touch it and do it to learn, or see it with my eyes to learn. So all the scriptures that were brought out today, very helpful. Like once I see it in the Word, it hits harder than it being said to me. Not that I don't understand it when someone says it to me, but when it's coming from Abba Yah himself, when it's in the Word, I have no choice but to look at myself, examine myself, and to do what the Word says. To be, to have that teachable Ruach. And I loved how many angles this lesson took place in. It went from having a teachable Ruach to receiving, to hearing, to listening, to doing. Like, it just went so many places that I didn't imagine that the study would go. And I just truly appreciate everything that was said today, everything that was taught today. And I'm going to continue to study on this. There are areas in my Ruach that I need to work on as well. So Toda, Achoti Nia, for bringing out all that you did, and Toda for this study. Hallelujah.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Sister Azania, but I know this is your first study with the team, if I may be right. So I just want to know, how do you feel? Are you
Yes, all esteem be to the Most High. I'm really grateful. I actually, whenever it was first posted in the group, I was like, wow, I'm looking forward to that. However, I will admit, that, oh my gosh, especially the part of talking about, are you reading to respond or reading to understand, and are you thinking of a response or listening to understand? I know that there's that amongst many other things, but mainly that right there, I know that is something that I do need to work on, because a lot of times, especially whenever being in a conversation with someone, I had to look at, and like, wow, how many times have I listened to be able to understand? Not saying that I never have, but I probably have spent more time thinking of a response than anything. And then at the same time, and then I'm looking at the fact of, okay, then those are those moments where, because of the mind, the flesh thinking of a response so much, that all of what it is that person was probably trying to share in that moment was missed, because I was busy thinking about a response, and then at the same time, like you were saying, as far as reading to actually understand, not saying that we never will have a response or there never will be a place for a response, but actually starting to, just even now, I'm like, okay, I am asking the Most High Yah to help me to begin to start reading more to understand and to actually allow myself to be exposed, So all esteem be to the Most High for this. My question was because it sounds like there may have been some of the material or whatever received prior to coming in. Would there be a way for me to be able to receive that so that way I can go back? I mean, I've taken notes and stuff, but just in case, I didn't know if there was a way to be able to receive the information on the study.
You can have the PowerPoint. I will send it to you. As for prior to, it's really we kind of come in with the assumption if a sister is bringing out a lesson, maybe we want to have a little head start, so we might look up verses for the lesson per se, but I didn't hand out anything prior to.
Okay.
So you don't really miss anything. Okay. They just knew it was Teachable Ruach, so they came with Teachable Ruach verses pretty much. But you can have the PowerPoint. I'll download it and I'll send it to you.
Okay, Karen, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
They were matching hair wraps. I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that too. I had different colors that are, it's to say this is actually Nine-Eyes. And I was like, let me use yours, but we have different colors. Yeah. But I wanted to say all esteem be to the Most High Yah then, because the way that all of the sisters here were flowing, it was as though, that's how you know it's the Ruach, because I was like, they must have been given some information before, because all of y'all stuff just went well together. So hello, Yah.
Hello, Yah. Well,
hello, Yah.
Anybody want to pray us out? Auntie Kusai, did you have anything to say? I didn't want to miss you if you did, but if not.
No, Toda for the lesson. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's good seeing all your beautiful faces. And
here, we all participated in the function of Teachable Ruach. One of our youngest Achotis facilitated this lesson, and we all were receptive and open, and honestly, had anticipation for the word that was going to be brought forth today. And so that in of itself showed us how we can function, even as, older women with our younger Achoti. And so I just wanted to bring that out, that we are the function of that, even in this lesson today. So hallelujah.